This is a FlippingJunkie podcast, episode 45. Welcome to the FlippingJunkie podcast. My name is Danny Johnson, former software developer turned house flipper, flipping hundreds of houses. Each week, we bring you interviews, strategies, stories, and motivation to help you get started flipping houses and on your way to becoming your own boss and achieving financial freedom. Thanks for spending time with me today. Now let's get to it. Hey everybody, we got a great show today. We're going to have Ben Grice on the show. He's the father of his 2-year-old son Nolan, a graduate of Ball State University, living with his beautiful and super supportive wife in Indianapolis, Indiana. Prior to becoming a real estate professional, he worked as a healthcare technology education consultant at the Indiana University of Health. He's also a successful poker player with a few TV final tables, World Poker Tour, stuff like that, which I found to be super interesting. It's a really cool story. You don't find a lot of people that have made it that far, especially in poker. He's spent the past several years learning all that he could about real estate and applying it so that he could provide enough income to support his family. Education's paid off. He's now a full-time real estate investor in Indianapolis, and he's doing a lot of great things, growing his business, and really respect him for that. And, in the show, he shares a little bit of, how when he got started following, FlippingJunkie, the blog, and listening to this podcast and all that kind of stuff. And, it's good to get that feedback. It's nice to hear when people take the information and put it to work and grow a business out of it and achieve what we're trying to help everybody achieve. So it's very cool. He talks about the Freedom by Flipping course, which is at freedombyflipping.com. That's my wholesaling course. And I don't mention it much, but he talks a little bit about that in the beginning of the show. So I just want to mention that so you know a little bit of reference for it. Enjoy the show. So hey, Ben, you there?
Yep.
Hey, man, thanks for, obviously here now I'm recording video, but I haven't released video yet, but I see you on here, so I'm going to have to stop asking if people are there. But anyway, hey, thanks for being on the show. Appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Today I wanted to talk with Ben about how he got into real estate, going from part-time to full-time, and I'm sure we'll get into some marketing stuff in there with direct mail. And I think he's got some systems that he's put into place to help him out with his business, and I'm sure we'll get into talking about all of that kind of stuff. So we'll just get right into this and get started with, you want to share with how you got interested in house flipping and how you got into the business?
Yeah. Long story short, I discovered Bigger Pockets and devoured all the information I could, and I started just reading a lot of the blog articles, forum posts, and devouring all the information I could, listening to all the podcasts on there. And through that's how I discovered you and your website, FlippingJunkie.com. And I really enjoyed your podcast episode on there. That really helped me. Also started reading a lot of your blog posts, and your tone just really resonated with me. So I kind of used your model as a guide to get started. I remember I purchased your $497 or your $500 wholesaling course, and that just really helped me get started. I remember it was awesome because I could email you if I had any questions, and you would respond. And that course showed me, how to get started marketing through direct mail. It showed me how to run comps on the properties I came across, how to make offers. So it was like everything I needed. And, you hear about these people paying $10, $20, $30, $40,000 to get started. And, I just got tremendous value simply by paying $500 for that course that you put out there. It helped me a ton. And then also Bigger Pockets as well. So that's how I got started, and I just took action. I started marketing, and first batch of letters I sent, I got 2 deals from that, and it's just snowballed from there. I was working full time as an EMR consultant, so that's training on the electronic medical records, EMR, training nurses and doctors. Also playing poker part-time as well. I've had a lot of success with that. Been in the World Series of Poker, World Poker Tour, Heartland Poker Tour. But both of those things, I had to travel a lot, and I was newlywed, wanting to start a family, and I knew I wanted to be closer to home and work closer to home. So I started wholesaling, and since then I'm no longer working as a consultant in the electronic medical record industry, so I'm able to be home with my family. And now when I play poker, it's more of as a hobby and more enjoyable, whereas in the past it felt more like a job. So yeah, that's
cool,
how I got started. Now I'm doing wholesaling full time.
Yeah, I remember the first time I talked to you, and you mentioned being the poker player and being World Series of Poker and all of that. I thought that was really cool. There was a time where I got real interested in that, just watching it on TV, and I think it's probably when a lot of people did. But so that was pretty neat. I never really took it anywhere, but
Never really ran
yeah,
with it.
I wasn't very good at it.
Yeah,
it's just more of a way to lose money than anything else. But it's fun.
Yeah, you either have it or you don't. And some people just play as a hobby, but the people that are professional and do really well, you just have to have a mindset for it, I guess.
Right.
Same thing, I guess, with flipping and wholesaling. You got to be able to tolerate risks. So.
Oh yeah. I think there's probably a lot of similarities. You mentioned you did the direct mail, the first batch that you did, and you got 2 deals. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
How many letters did you send out in that first, or postcards or whatever?
I sent out letters, first class, and I sent out 1,000.
Wow.
Roughly 1,000. I know I spent $1,000, so it was costing me about $1 a letter. I know you can get them cheaper than that, but I was at a point where I just needed to take action, so I outsourced everything because I had some money saved up from my full-time job and from poker winnings and things like that. So I was mostly concerned with just taking action. I didn't want to dwell on what type of letter, where to buy my letter. I found somebody to outsource my direct mail to, and they did all the direct mail for me, and the calls started pouring in.
Wow. So what was that list for? Was that an absentee owner list? Was that driving for dollars?
Yeah, that was, I want to say going on 3 years ago. So that was, it was an absentee owner list with equity, an equity with absentee owner list. Yep. And I think he got the list from ListSource. He was doing so much direct mail that if you buy a large number of lists from ListSource, you can get a discount. So, yep, absentee owner with equity.
Cool. So,
and I didn't focus on. I know a lot of people get hung up on when they're buying their list where to buy it. I just picked the county and just sent them all out. The thing about I'm in Indianapolis, so the thing about Indianapolis, there's so many pockets. Neighborhoods you can't really target by zip code, so I just sent out to the entire county.
Nice.
And the ones that came in that didn't work, I just marked them as dead. Told them I wasn't able to help them.
How many times did you mail it to the same list?
When I first got started, I only sent one batch of letters one time when I first started, and then I partnered with a guy locally here who did driving for dollars. He would do all the driving, and I would send the mail out, and all of the mail would come in through the system that I had set up. So we partnered on some driving for dollars, and we did multiple mailing through driving for dollars. And then since I kind of put that outsourcing of the direct mail on hold when I first started and just did a lot of direct mail through driving for dollars. But since starting about 5 months ago, I've started doing a lot more direct mail to absentee owners again consistently, and I send them a letter now. I send them a letter every month. So
And are you sending the same letter over and over, or do you have a sequence of letters that you're doing?
I wouldn't have any idea because I just outsource it. So
Oh wow, so they're even coming up with the message and everything then when you outsource.
yeah, with the first letter I sent out, I told him I wanted to. After that, I don't know what letters he's sent out, but I know the phones are ringing. So I'd recommend people that are getting started don't get caught up on what the message is. Just make sure it's communicating that you want to buy the seller's house is what's important, and just get the letters in the mail. Really,
Yeah.
some people just get so caught up on all the minute details that it prevents them from taking action. So to answer your question, I don't know what the message is on the letters he's sending out, but I know the phones are ringing, so that's important.
Yeah. So outsourcing, is that like a local person that's just a guy doing this for you, or is it a company that does this for other investors? What's the situation there?
It's somebody that does this for other investors. And if you want, I'd be more than happy to share his
Sure.
share his name. His name is Jerry Puckett.
Okay. Yeah, he's on
Yeah.
Bigger Pockets. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I found him on Bigger Pockets, and he's just always done a good job for me. And I've just, for my other direct mail campaigns, I just have him do it. I'm sure I could save, maybe 20 cents by doing it on my own, or maybe 30 cents per letter. But to me, it's just, I just want to get the letters in the mail and take action.
Yeah. So he's generating the list and everything. So it's basically autopilot, right? You just say, "Hey,
It's autopilot.
I want stuff to go out, put it out," and then that's it, right?
Yeah, it's easy as can be. Autopilot, tell him what I want. He does so much direct mail for so many investors all over. So, to get the sample size of data that I would need to test what works and what doesn't, it would take me years and years and a lot of money spent. But he already has all of that data from doing so much direct mail. So he knows what works because of all of the data that he has, because he's sending out hundreds of thousands of letters every month. Maybe not hundreds, but tens of thousands of letters every month. So he has a lot more data than I could ever get on my own. So yeah, I trust him for the list. I tell him what I'm hoping to accomplish, and it's what a lot of his investors are trying to accomplish. So he knows what works.
Yeah, and so he, I had a question, lost it, but so let me see.
He'll buy the list.
Yeah, he'll buy the list and do all of that. Do you know what the sort of the response rate that you're getting from those?
I don't. That's one of my weaknesses as an entrepreneur, owning my own business is measuring those numbers. I do know I did take a look at my direct mail versus some of the other marketing, some of the other marketing avenues that I take, whether it be online or pay-per-click or things like that online. And I know my direct mail is a much higher return on investment than everything else. I do know that much. Substantially, my direct mail ROI is substantially higher than pay-per-click. So
do you find less competition with the direct mail as opposed to other sources?
I don't know. I don't know that it's really less competition because, as well as I do, everybody knows that direct mail is a key to running a successful flipping or wholesaling business if you're going to market directly to sellers. So everybody does it. I think the key is being consistent with it, and I'm now very consistent with it month after month. Those letters just hit people. So I think it's not really so much competition. It's really, if you're sending them consistent marketing, it's all about timing. And so when the timing is right, if you're in front of them, they're going to give you a call. And so there's still competition, but maybe that competition isn't as consistent as I am.
Yeah, and when you say consistent, you said every month, and then, is there a time where you just said you got cranked back up in about 5-6 months ago?
Yeah.
So they probably receive 5 or 6. So are you going to continue sending them all year?
Yeah, I'll keep sending them letters until they ask me to take them off their list, or until they, if I get their phone number, I take them off the list. There's no need to mail to them anymore, because I have follow-up systems put into place that once I have their phone number and their email address, I can contact them without having to mail to them. And
so are you doing that yourself, or do you have somebody that's working on that for you, going through that list and trying to find contact info for them?
As far as so when somebody calls in from my letter, I'll get their contact info that way.
But you don't do active research to find them before they respond to you?
No.
Oh, okay.
I use my direct mail to market to them, and then once the seller calls me, then I have them in my CRM. I get their email, I get their phone number, and then I can I text them on follow-up, and I email them on follow-up, and that's all automated through my customer care manager, or the girl that screens my leads, and using my CRM. So and I have her, those people that my assistant, I have her take those the sellers who call in, take them off the mailing list for the next month.
Oh, cool. Yeah, so that you're not obviously mailing to somebody that's already responded to you. It wouldn't make sense.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Did you mention how many you're mailing right now every month?
Yeah, I'm sticking with 1,000 a month, which I know is low compared to a lot of wholesalers who are doing this full time. I listened to one of your podcasts. I don't know.
Was it Joe McCall maybe?
No, I think it was like Spouses or something.
Oh, okay, Doug, yeah.
Yeah, I listened to Doug, and I think he had said he was doing like 20,000 a month,
right.
Which is crazy to me. But I have a lot of money invested into online as well. I want to do more letters. I've been thinking about expanding outside of absentee owner and doing some owner occupants, because what Doug has said, and what other successful flippers and full-time wholesalers have told me, is that there's less competition with owner occupants.
Yeah, the response rate's lower, but less competition. So yeah, and I guess it depends a lot on what you experience in your area, whether you see a lot of other people doing the direct mail to the absentee owners. And I think a lot of times maybe we think that it's a lot worse than it really is.
Yeah.
Because our rental properties, we get letters sometimes, but a lot of them, we've got them in trust. And so they, I think those, maybe people screen those out of their mailing list a lot of times so that we don't get letters to those. But sometimes we do. And it's usually not more than 5 people in all of San Antonio mailing. It seems like, to me at least.
Yeah. And it's all about timing too. There may be 5 people mailing, but they may not be mailing consistently, and it's all about answering the phone too. I mean, some people, some sellers have told me that they received the letter and they've called the competitor, and the competitor just doesn't answer the phone. So,
isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it's crazy. So just because a competitor is marketing doesn't mean they're answering the phone like they should be, or following up like they should be. So,
and yours is how do you do yours? Do you have yours going directly to your cell phone?
I answer the calls live. I don't answer them personally. I have an assistant who answers the calls live. If she's not, if it's not during her work hours, then of course they leave a voicemail, and she follows up with them next business day.
Okay, what kind of message do you have her giving people that call? Because I'm assuming your marketing says, hey, call Ben, or something like that, right? Or is it more of company-oriented?
It's all over the board. It's company-oriented, and, just like a yellow letter, we buy house, or a professional business letter.
So are they expecting when they call to talk to you, or is it not set up that way to where it's okay for her to call or answer the phone?
Well, I know the guy that I hired to outsource, do all my direct mail. Um, I'm glad that you bring that point up because that's something that I should maybe put on the letters. But they're calling expecting to talk to me. But she's able to explain like who we are, what we do. This is the first step in the process. Is her getting information. She handles, she's customer care manager. Once that process gets, once she gets all the information that Ben needs to make an offer, Ben will be in touch with an offer or with a phone call to schedule an appointment.
Yeah.
So she explains that to all of the sellers. All of her calls, all of my calls are recorded so I can, make sure she's doing her job.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and that's it was not to say that that wasn't a good idea. I was just curious as to what sort of message, because I think there's two sides of it, right? Like they want to talk to you maybe, but the other side of it is showing that you're an organization, somebody capable of buying houses and not somebody that's, sitting in some apartment somewhere, far away or whatever and talking to these people and saying that they've got cash to buy all these houses, so it's I think it goes a long way for credibility.
Yeah, I've found that out myself. Like when I first started, it was just me, right? I didn't have a website or anything like that. I was just sending letters, and since then I've built up my brand locally here in Indy. I get testimonials from customers. I get reviews. I run it like a business. My sellers can see that if they visit my website, and even on some of the direct mail, they can see, oh, Ben's a part of the Indianapolis Chamber of Commerce. Ben is Better Business Bureau. Ben is part of the neighborhood association. Ben has somebody answering the calls for him, and so it looks a little bit more professional. And I feel like sellers, they're going to work. They want to work with somebody that's professional and credible versus somebody they don't know who they are, just a random person sending them a letter.
Right. So, yeah, that stuff goes a long way. And when you consider if people are getting these letters, the thoughts going through their minds are, what is this really about? Is this a scam? Who is this that's saying that they want to buy my house? It's weird.
Yeah.
It's not something that you get every day. It's not them. It's not somebody sending a letter saying that they're trying to sell you insurance. That'd be normal.
Yeah.
It's somebody saying they want to buy your house. So you've got to get over that. And I think everybody should always be thinking in terms of marketing and showing that they're credible.
Yeah, for sure. And I forget what I was going to say, but yeah.
Do you ever include any pictures of yourself or anything on your marketing, or?
Oh yeah, that's huge. I sent when we were doing Driving for Dollars. I was doing Driving for Dollars. I would put a picture of myself on the postcard. They could say, "Oh, this is Ben. This is what Ben looks like. Ben's a real person." Mm-hmm. I put my URL to my website on the postcard as well. So I find that a lot of the sellers who contact me, they say, "Hey, we really liked your website. We saw the reviews, the customer testimonials. That's why we called you." And
mm-hmm.
Nobody has said, "I called you because you sent me a yellow letter and it just simply said, 'I want to buy your house' in red ink." But they have told me that they've called me because they see my website, they see positive testimonials and customer reviews, they see I'm professional and credible and part of the Better Business Bureau. So I definitely think that goes a long way. And I made sure that the guy outsourcing my letters knows that, on some of the letters that we send out, I want that professional business feel on the letters.
Mm-hmm.
Because you got to think about it this way too. If your competition, the majority of your competition doesn't have, the majority of your competition doesn't have the, because I've gotten the letters in the mail, because either for whatever reason they've seen I bought a house for cash, so they see, okay, Ben may be a landlord. So I've gotten those letters. The vast majority of our competition probably isn't branding their letters professionally. So there may be like 2 or 3 in the market, but then the rest of the letters that are going out, maybe another 6 that all look the same.
Right, the seller has no idea that that's from different people, the same person. They just have no idea.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, especially it's so important, especially if you're sending more than one letter and you're being consistent, like what you're saying about, because they've got to know every time they open that letter, I'm getting this from this guy. Like he is serious. Sending me again. Not just here's another letter saying they want to buy my house. I don't remember what the name was of the first one I threw away, but I don't know. This may be them. But there's nothing other than it's just some weirdo sending a letter because there's nothing on there except for the fact that they want to buy the house.
Yeah.
And maybe not even a last name on the letter, even just the first name, which is crazy to me,
That's how I got started, and it worked for, at first. But I have a lot more success now with, people seeing that I'm professional and credible, and there's an actual face behind the name and an actual business behind the name and letter. And what I've explored, what I've thought about doing with the upcoming football season is sending like a magnet. So find a farm area that I really want to target, and because it's all about timing, like I keep saying, so you have to be consistent. But one way to always be in front of the seller is I was thinking about sending out a magnet that says, Ben buys indie houses, with a picture of me on it, a picture of my logo, our company information, and then it has the schedule for the Indianapolis Colts. It has the schedule for Notre Dame. It has the schedule for Purdue and Indiana, and so people hang that up on their fridge.
Yeah, I like that.
And say, hey, when the timing is right, I know who to call. This is on my fridge. I can give Ben a call.
Right, and then they have people over to their house that see it.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool. It's a lot better idea than the one that I had a long time ago, where there was a local pizza joint, and I said, hey, what if I print out their menu for them on a half a piece of paper? The other half I'll have my ad saying that I buy houses.
Yeah.
And I quickly found out that was a horrible idea because the pizza joint was close to downtown. And in San Antonio, most of downtown is like tourist stuff, hotels and everything. And so, like, most of the people ordering were just tourists in hotels. But I would get all the drunk calls, like the people saying that they, wanted to, order pizza or something because they saved that thing and they're calling my number thinking it was the pizza place number, or that they want to sell their pizza or whatever. So it didn't work out. It didn't work out so hot.
Open a pizza joint.
Yeah, right.
You need to open up a pizza joint.
Yeah, no, I stopped doing that pretty quickly after that. It was nothing but horrible calls.
Yeah, and I ran that by the magnet thing on by the guy who outsources my mail, and he said he is doing that for some other investors in the area, and they're having some success with
the
that.
Magnets.
Because it's really, they're not too expensive, and it's a one-time fee. Because once you send that once, they're gonna hang it up on their fridge, unless they don't like football. But, I mean, we're in America. Who doesn't like football?
Yeah. Well, you could do the whole thing where you send a nickel. It amazes me how bad I feel about getting one of those letters and not doing anything because they gave me a nickel in the letter. I just sit there and think about it and fret over it for like 5 minutes. But anyway, whatever. I don't know if everybody's like that or not.
Yeah.
But you don't want to guilt people into calling you either. So.
No.
But anyway.
You want motivated sellers calling you.
Yeah. And they might think that you're only going to pay in change, right, for the house. I buy houses change instead of cash.
Some people really do think we're bringing in cash.
Yeah, that's what worries me sometimes. If you run into, I don't know if you've run into a situation where you went to a house where you started to wonder if they actually believe that you did have the cash on you. Have you ever had that happen?
No.
Where it was sort of like a shady situation, though.
I remember when I first started marketing, and I was reading your blog post, and you had said something about like if you don't feel safe, leave. And you had an incident where you didn't feel safe, and I always on the lookout for that. And I've had a few incidences where I wouldn't go inside the house because I didn't feel safe, and the seller's like, "Oh, you don't have to go inside?" And I'm like, "No, we buy houses all the time, sight unseen." You don't want to offend them, like. But yeah, I've had those incidences where you wonder if people think you're bringing the cash, and so.
Right. Yeah, I had one where I went inside, and they closed the bar door. Like the whole thing had bars all over the windows, and the bar door over the bar. Oh, I'm sorry, over the front door. And so when I walked in, the lady with a key, and it wasn't even a deadbolt. So even if I wanted to get out, I couldn't get out because it was locked with a key from the inside. And right next to the front door, leaned up against the wall, was a shotgun. And I'm just like, oh, this is horrible.
Yeah.
Immediately my brain's going, how can I get out of here? How? Yeah. And so I just said, I want to see the backyard real quick. Where's the backyard? And just like made a beeline out through the back door. And they didn't have any fences or nothing. So I was able to walk around the front, and I just told her I'm not interested. Just because it was it was just a creepy situation.
Yeah, I've had that. The guy's like, well, do you want to see the basement? No, I'm all right. And there's guns everywhere, and he's got like practically no clothes on, just boxers. Like, no, I don't want to see the basement. I'm fine. Yeah,
or if you see the room that has all the locks on the outside of the door, right? It's all locked up, and some crazy stuff. So for any other advice on people doing marketing, though, I mean, sounds like you had really good experience on that first mailing where you got the 2 deals, kind of got you going in the business, right? And then you were able to reinvest that money in other things. Where do you see yourself going with direct mail in the future?
Well, I definitely want to increase the volume that I do. I want to do something different than absentee owners, because you do get the most competition from absentee owners. I want to do a little bit more focus on the type of property. So I've been having somewhat trouble selling 2 bedrooms here in Indy. So I want to try and filter out 2 bedrooms, maybe focus on 3 bedrooms and do owner occupants. Definitely increase the volume of the direct mail. I mean, I know people who are doing a lot more volume than me, and they're doing a lot more deals, and so those are the goals moving forward. Just maybe do a little bit more targeting as well, especially for the owner occupant leads.
Like specific situations, or just targeting on like
geographic areas of Indy, because I do get leads that I can't buy in certain neighborhoods, and so it's really wasting some of my customer care manager, my assistant's time screening those calls. Mm-hmm. And then the guy that I hired to do inside sales and my property analyst is wasting some of his time to spend all that time analyzing the property when we can't buy it in that neighborhood. Right. So when I was getting started at first, it was just my time I had to worry about, and I just wanted to get started, so I didn't dwell on certain areas. I just wanted to make sure I got the mail out there.
Yeah, and those areas that you don't buy in, is that just because there aren't any other buyers to buy your wholesale deals there, like war zones or something, or what's the...
Yeah, well, that's a good question. I try and, your reputation is everything in this business when you're working with sellers. You want to have a great reputation. That's why I spend a lot of time getting testimonials and reviews from my sellers and being on the Better Business Bureau. And then on the flip side of things, when you're selling the house, your reputation is everything with your buyers. So most buyers don't want to buy houses in war zones. If the house is surrounded by vacant houses, it's going to be nearly, they may be able to get 1 month of rent, but it's going to be hard to keep the property occupied for an entire year lease because the tenants there may not feel safe, or you get a different type of tenant class in those neighborhoods if all of the properties are vacant. you're going to have a hard time finding the tenant that you really want. So I don't like selling properties in those neighborhoods or sending those properties out to my buyers, because I don't want my buyers to look and be like, oh, here's another property that Ben has sent us in the war zone, and they don't even look at the deal, they just see the address. And so that it begins to be a point where I start sending good deals out, but they don't even look at them because I've sent properties in these war zones. So you want to have a reputation of selling good deals. The thing is, though, is it's crazy. There's an appetite. People have an appetite for those properties. There are some people that have an appetite for those properties in those war zones. The hard part is finding those. For me, has been finding the people that do have an appetite, because most of the buyers on my list aren't looking for those types of properties.
Yeah, so maybe that's a good point in having your two different lists. That way you're not sending out a bunch of garbage so that people skip over your good stuff, and you send it, to the people are interested in those and not to everybody.
And the thing is when I send them, it's not like I'm overpricing them. I'm talking about a house that's a 3-bedroom, 1 bath that may rent for $600, which is on the low end for a 3-bedroom in Indy. It may rent for $600, and I've bought it for $1,000, and I'm sending it out at $5,000.
Oh wow!
And or $6,000. So there are people that have an appetite for those, but on the buyers that I work with, I don't have those people really on my list. So,
well, cool. How many deals would you say that you're doing wholesaling about per month right now?
I'm buying about 3 or 4 houses a month. It doesn't mean they're all closing every month. 1 month I may have 5 or 6 close, and the next month I may only have 2 close. So like July has been a really good month for me, but I'm consistently buying 3 or 4 houses a month. I do know that. Awesome. Looking at the number of deals I've done already this year, and then
it's only been 3 years, right? I mean, three. That's pretty good.
Going on, I think it'll be 3 years full time starting in October. Well, not 3 years. 3 years since I started. This will be my second year full time. Last year was my first full year. Yes, last year I was full time, and then the year before that I was part time. So it only really took me a year to go full time. Speaking of volume, you were mentioning like how many deals. One thing I've tried to do is focus on not so much volume. I have a number I want to get to, but I really focused on from where I began to where I am now, increasing my revenue per deal or my gross profit per deal. And so that's what I focused on. And I really did that through finding, increasing my buyers list. Right. Is the way I did that. Because at first, when I first started, I was selling them to turnkey companies who were then selling them to the end landlord. And now I've sold a lot of my properties to the end landlord. And so being able to sell to the person who's going to hold on to it has helped me a lot versus selling to some of the turnkey companies. They have to make a profit, which I understand, but they can't pay as much as what the landlord who's going to buy it. So I focused a lot of my effort on that.
Yeah, no, it's smart. If you can make, and a lot of times, the difference is pretty incredible, right? I mean, between selling through the middle person versus the end buyer. Yeah. And spending that time to build that list to find all those buyers is well worth it because, like you said, you could do half the number of deals that you did at half the marketing even and half of everything else and double your profit. Mm-hmm. And it's, it's not just financially either. It's half the headaches. Yeah. Half the busy work, so it's, it's pretty smart to do that. And you doing that so early on in your business here is pretty smart. Sounds like you're on your way to a lot of success, even more. I
got to remind myself a lot because I see what you're doing, and I see what other people are doing around the country, people that have been wholesaling or flipping for, 10 years, a decade. And I'm like, man, they're doing 7 figures a year. And I'm doing 6 figures a year, which in my, I got to remind myself, hey, Ben, like that's good. But sometimes I get caught up thinking that I have to be doing 7 figures. And I have to remind myself, you've only been doing this full time for a year, going on this will be your second year, you're still new in this.
Yeah, no, you're doing awesome. And, for a lot of people, it's more even besides getting to that, it's just more of building it in a way so that they've got what they started the business to have is the freedom, right?
Yeah.
To make sure you keep your eye on that. And it can get hard when you're always trying to do more and more and lose track of that a little bit. But
you do more and more. It's more and more headaches too.
Right.
Managing people or people who work for you, managing the system. So yeah.
Yeah. So it's always like determining what you really want deep down.
Yeah.
I guess which way you want to go, whether you want to do more and have more, or just do just enough to make a comfortable, very comfortable living and have the time to do what you want to do. But hey, I know that you've got to get going. We started this a little bit late because I got confused about time zones, believe it or not.
No problem.
But is there a place that people can find you? Anybody listening out there who wants to get in touch with you?
Yeah. So if, you're a new wholesaler or something and you're looking to see, how can I, go from this part-time to full-time and maybe brand myself as a wholesaler, or how does, Ben brand himself as a wholesaler? They can visit benbuysindiehouses.com. So that's the website that I use for my business, for all of my sellers. So benbuysindiehouses.com. And then if you're looking to invest in Indianapolis, buy rental properties, or how do you brand yourself to your buyers on the flip side, investwithben.com. So that's where, all of my buyers find me, is at investwithben.com.
Yeah, I like the name of that one.
Yeah, I've had a lot of success using like me in the branding. I guess what it does is it feels more personable to everybody. They know that at the end of the day, they're working with me, because every house that I buy, the seller talks to me. Every house that I sell, the buyer talks to me. And so I know I think when you first started, you had one website, but I think you maybe switched it to Danny Buys Houses.
Danny Buys Houses. Yeah.
Have you had success with that?
Oh yeah. That's where we get majority of our deals, is from the website. So, and I'm going to be in the series. We'll be getting into more of the online. I think we focused a lot on direct mail because I think that still is the number one way for most people.
Without a doubt, yeah.
To do a lot of volume and quickly, and but we'll be getting into that. And I started looking at all these different things that people do marketing wise, and it's almost like really we could just focus on direct mail and online. I mean, there's other stuff that you get in there, like flyers and
bandit signs. I've never done bandit signs.
Consider yourself lucky. I mean, but I don't know. Some people don't mind putting them out. I always hated putting them out, or even having other people do it. I just didn't like the thought of doing it. And it's illegal in most places. As a disclaimer, we're not saying to do it, but the return's pretty good on those.
Mm-hmm.
But make sure they're not illegal where you're at, or if you have to get permits, get the permits. But we'll probably have just like a catch-all show or something where we talk about all those different other things that you couldn't really spend 45 minutes talking about. Yeah. I mean, I guess you could, but it'd probably be a bunch of random thoughts.
Yeah.
Just be me telling
pretty general.
Yeah, me telling stories about falling off of ladders and stuff and having Melissa laugh at me because I'm, or running real quickly back to the truck because the police are flying by or something. I don't know.
Opening up a pizza joint.
Right. It's the next thing. Danny sells pizzas or something. All right, man. Well, thanks very much, Ben. And
no problem. Thanks for having me. I remember when I first got started, I looked up to you, and now I'm on.
Yeah, you're on the podcast.
Danny's podcast.
All right, man. Take care.
All right. Thank you. Take care.
Yeah, keep in touch.
Will do.
So another great episode. Thanks a lot to Ben for being on the show and sharing his story and direct mail. And I think it went a little bit deeper than some of the other episodes that we have, not with respects to like saying what sort of criteria for the list, but just an overall sense of how direct mail can work and how you can get some deals, and think about the bigger picture and how you're coming across in the letters and things without getting into specifics of exactly what a letter should say in it, because it's more important just to get it in front of the right people at the right time. And I think that was reiterated here in the show. And I had forgotten even that Ben had taken the training course that I had created called Freedom by Flipping. And if you don't know about it, obviously because I don't talk much about it, he really enjoyed the course and got to start with it. It's freedombyflipping.com. Freedombyflipping.com is where you can find out about that course that he was talking about at the beginning of the show. And the show notes page will have some links to that and to his sites and the other information that we shared in this episode. And another thing that I wanted to mention real quick was he was talking a lot about how he has some automation for follow-up set up for any people that call him. And that's exactly what we're working on right now for RAI Mobile, and to incorporate in Lead Propeller as well as a follow-up system with automation. So it's going to be very cool to be able to just at a couple clicks have some automated series of follow-up be set up for somebody. So it's going to save a lot of time, because I know right now we spend a lot of time making calls and doing follow-up all the time with past leads and stuff like that. And it gets to be pretty time-consuming playing phone tag and all that kind of stuff with people. So this is going to be a big time saver for us, and hopefully get us some more deals. And we're going to make that available to all the customers out there too. And so people that want to get a hold of that, be able to use that sort of stuff, will have it available. So we'll be testing that pretty soon and then getting it out there and making it live. So if you're not a member of leadpropeller.com, please check that out. Get yourself a real estate investor website. And if you don't have a system for keeping track of your leads and follow-up and working as a team, if you've got a team that works with you on your house flipping, definitely check out reimobile.com as a CRM software system. So you guys have a great week, and we'll have Tom Krall on the show next week to talk about the best list for direct mail and continue on this series of learning how to get started flipping houses and how to market and find the deals.